Okay, so I'm going to have you go ahead and start. Nanette Kennedy with Humanities Team and Evolution Revolution. And we're glad you're listening in if you are not listening live. Uh, anyway, I am going to. What page are we on?
It's the beginning of chapter 11, page 231, I believe.
Okay, well, why don't you go ahead and start, Linda, and everybody go on to mute if you're not speaking.
Yes, thank you. Okay. So here we are, Friendship with God and Uncommon Dialogue. This is chapter 11, and it's Neil speaking. Thank you for this wonderful dialogue on how to have a friendship with God. I'm having another marvelous time with you. And these first 5 steps alone, know God, trust God, love God, embrace God, use God, could change people's lives. Yes, but patience. There are 2 more. I know, and I need a little help with the next one. Help God. Yes, I need a little help understanding why you need help. I thought you were the one who didn't need anything. I don't need help, but I enjoy having it. It makes things easier. And if everyone could mute themselves, that would be great. Easier. I thought there were no levels of difficulty in God's world. Are you going back on yourself? No. In ultimate reality, there are not. When I converse with you here, I most often use terms consistent with your illusion. If I always spoke to you in terms consistent with ultimate reality, we could not have any conversation at all. You could not understand. It is very challenging to you when I do so, even occasionally. The difficulty is that you do not have words for most of what there is to convey. And of that for which you do not have words, you do not have a context within which to place them. This is the difficulty with much spiritual and esoteric writing. They are attempts to convey truth about ultimate reality with limited words taken out of context. That must be why so much spiritual writing and sacred scripture has been misinterpreted. You're right. So within the context of my understanding, what did you mean when you said, "You're having my help makes things easier"? I meant that it makes things easier for you. Oh, I thought you meant it makes things easier for you. In a sense, I did, and it does. But you see, here's where we get into that context thing again. I'm crossing over into the context of ultimate reality when I say things like that. In ultimate reality, what helps you helps me, because in ultimate reality, you and I are one. There is no separation between us. Yet within this separation paradigm in which you live, within the illusion you are experiencing, such a statement has no meaning. Throughout this dialogue, I have had to do that kind of crossing over, moving from one context to another, in order to explain things that cannot be explained simply by staying within the framework of your own earthly experience. Thus, it is a challenge for you to grok in fullness as wonderful Robert Heinlein would put it, what I mean when I say, help God. Well, most people can't even grok in fullness what grok in fullness means. Well, exactly. That's the problem right there. You grok it in fullness. Why don't we just say then that it makes things easier for us when I help God? But now tell me, how does it make things easier? In order for you to understand that, you have to understand what God is trying to do. You have to understand what I'm up to. I think I do. You are recreating yourself anew in every single moment of now. You are doing this in the next grandest version of the greatest vision you ever held about who you are. And you are doing this in, as, and through us. You are you. We are members of the body of God. We are God. God, Godding. You, friend. Once again, we begin to speak with one voice. This is good, for you shall be one of many messengers, not only a seeker of the light, but a bringer of the light. And that is how I best help you. I can best help you by remembering, or as you would put it, by re-remembering. That is, becoming a member once again of the body of God. You have truly understood. You have grasped this completely in its every nuance. Here is how you help God. Live your life deliberately, harmoniously, and beneficially. These three ways of living you can accomplish by using the gifts I have given you: creative energy, gentle wisdom, and pure love. Creative energy has been placed by me in your entire being and in everything that proceeds from it. Thoughts, words, and deeds are the three tools of creation. When you know this, you can choose to be the cause of your experience rather than being at the effect of it. Life proceeds out of your intentions for it. When you are aware of this, you can live your life deliberately. The things you think deliberately. The things you say deliberately. The things you do deliberately. When you do something and people say, you did that deliberately, it will not be an accusation, but a compliment. Everything you do on purpose. And your purpose in every moment of your life is indeed to live the grandest version of the greatest vision you ever held about who you are. When you use creative energy, you help God be more of what God is and seeks to experience of itself. Gentle wisdom has been placed by me in your soul. When you use this gift, you live harmoniously in any situation. Your very being is harmony itself. Harmony means feeling the vibration of the moment, of the place, person, or circumstance you are now experiencing, and blending with it. Blending does not mean matching. Singing in harmony does not mean singing in unison. It does mean singing together. When you sing in harmony, you change the way the entire song is sung. It becomes a new song, a different song. This is the song of the soul, and there is none more beautiful. Bring a gentle wisdom to your moments. Watch it change them. Watch it change you. You have that gentle wisdom within you. I've placed it there, and it has never left you. Call on it in times of difficulty and stress, in times of decision or amenity, and it will be there. For when you call on it, you call on me. When you use gentle wisdom, you help God be more of what God is and seeks to experience of itself. Pure love has been placed by me in every human heart. It is that which I am and which you are. Your heart is filled with this overflow, love to overflowing. It is bursting. Your whole self is permeated by it. It is composed of it. Pure love is who you are. When you express pure love, you give yourself the direct experience of who you are. It is the greatest gift. It looks as if you are giving a gift to others, and you are giving it to yourself. That is because there is no one else in the room. It only looks as if there is. Pure love allows you to see this truth. When you come from a place of pure love, you live a life that is beneficial to everyone. You make sure that everyone benefits from your having been here. Kindness becomes an important word to you. Suddenly you understand its deeper meaning. Kindness means not only goodness, it means sameness. You realize when you live in pure love that you and all others are of like kind. You are truly kin, and now suddenly you see that when you express pure love, you are expressing kindness. Kinness. This is what it means to be a kindred spirit. This is what it is to know a oneness through all things. And when, in any circumstance or situation, you use pure love, you help God be more of what God is and seeks to experience itself. You help God when you help yourself to God. So have a big helping. Help yourself to as much of God as you like, for this is the fruit of life, by which all things are nourished. Take and eat of this, for this is my body. You are all members of that one body, and it is time now to remember. I would not tell you this if it were not so. This is the greatest truth. So help me, God. I've never seen words come together like that, so meaningfully. It's also symmetrical. God is symmetrical. God is perfect symmetry. There is order in the chaos. There is perfection in the design. Yes, I see that. I see the perfection in the design throughout my life. Even in my friend Joe Alton going to jail, though I was shocked when it happened. Joe Alton found to have committed some relatively minor offenses relating to campaign contributions, and he spent a few months in a minimum security lockup at a federal prison in Allenwood, Pennsylvania. The lesson for me in it all, something I always knew but had forgotten, was that there are few saints among us. All of us are trying our best, and many of us stumble and fall. This remembering has helped me stay out of my judgments when the weaknesses of others are revealed by their actions, and when my weaknesses are revealed by mine. It's not been an easy task, and I have not always succeeded. But since my days in Anne Arundel County politics, I have always tried. They taught me to always try. There's another reason I've been thrust into Joe Alton's presence, though, having nothing more to do with this. At some level, I must have known that I had to train myself for being with the public, for dealing one-on-one with large numbers of people. I couldn't have picked a better trainer. Joe Alton had a richer understanding of human nature than just about any person I'd met. Working with him, first as a low-level campaign aide, and then as a low-level staff member in the county government, I had a chance to see him put that into action, and it dramatically changed my own way of dealing with people. Joe was besieged by folks wherever he went. At public meetings, they would crowd around, pulling and tugging at him, each person wanting a private moment, a chance to ask a small favor, to request his help, or just to bring themselves to his attention. As they came at him from every direction, I never saw Joe Alton brush off a single person. It didn't matter how late it was, or how long he'd been there, or how much more he had to do after he left. He never failed to look everyone in the eye, or give anyone his full attention. One night following a public meeting, I was playing lead man, making a path through the crowd in a slow trek from the front of the room to the back of a hall and our waiting car. When we climbed into the back seat at last, I turned to Joe incredulously. "How do you do it?" I asked. "How do you give so much of yourself? All those people hanging all over you, everybody wanting something from you." "It's very simple to give them what they want, actually," Joe smiled. "What do they want? What kinds of things are they asking you?" "They all want the same thing." I looked at him quizzically. "Don't you know what all people want?" "No," I had to admit. "They all want to be heard." Okay, hang on, I have to clear my throat and cough. They all want to be heard. 30 years later, I'd be walking out of meeting rooms and lecture halls with people coming at me from every direction, and I would remember Joe. People want to be heard, and they deserve to be. They've read your book and given you their mind from cover to cover. They've given you a part of themselves, and they want a part of you, and that's fair, and that's what Joe Alton knew. It's what he deeply understood. He wasn't giving anything away. He was giving back. I learned that again on the lecture circuit from some wonderful people. Author Wayne Dyer always said to his audiences, "I'm going to stay here until the last one of you has had your book signed. And I've had a chance to visit with you." So do a lot of other speakers. They hang around. They give back. What goes around comes around. Joe Alton was the first to teach me that wisdom, too. I learned that what goes around comes around 30 years ago in the rough and tumble of a political campaign. We were in a trailer late one night following a long and difficult debate. Joe's opponent had been ruthless in his denunciations, saying very little about the substantive issues in the campaign, engaging instead in personal attacks. When I got back to the trailer, I headed immediately to the typewriter. My fingers flew across the keyboard as I composed a stinging and concise rebuttal, a rebuke, as I recall, of unmatched eloquence. Joe lumbered over casually. "What are you writing?" "Your statement for the press tomorrow in response to those vicious attacks." I replied in a tone that said, "What else?" Joe just chuckled. "You know I'm not going to use any of that, don't you?" "Why not? We need to come back at him. We can't let him get away with that." "Okay," Joe agreed. "Then here's my statement. Are you ready?" Yes, I thought to myself, now we're cooking. Joe will say this much better than I ever could. "Go," I said, my fingers poised. Joe dictated a one-sentence statement. Quote, "I am so sorry to see my opponent doing this to himself." Close quote. "That's it," I burst out. "That's it?" "That's it," Joe repeated. "But what about all those things he said?" "We can drop down to his level," Joe said quietly, "or we can rise above it. Which do you choose?" But, which do you choose?" Joe asked again. I glanced at the pages I'd written. I reread the first couple of paragraphs, and then I tore them up. "Good choice," Joe said, and he patted me on the shoulder. "You grew up tonight." Now I want to tell you something about that life experience that you may not realize. What? When you use the insight that you gained there, you are using God. When you use that story in a book like this, you are using God. Because you have taken a gift I have given you and sent it to all the world. Do you see? This is more than an interesting antidote. This is more than a simple life episode. You brought this to yourself, and now you've shared it with us for a reason. You seek to change yourself and change the world. The telling of stories from your life in this book is about much more than satisfying the curiosity of your readers about your past. It is about causing others to remember what they too have always known. Now, here is the symmetry. Here is the perfection in the design. It is clear to your soul. It was clear to your soul 30 years ago what persons, places, and conditions would provide perfect experiences that would prepare you to play your role in changing the world. It has also known to your soul that you should choose those experiences. What you received from them would have a lasting value that you would use 30 years later. Whoa. Do you really think anything happens by accident? I tell you again, there is perfection in the design. Nothing happens in life by accident. Nothing. Nothing occurs in your life by chance. Nothing. Nothing takes place without producing the opportunity for real and lasting benefit to you. Nothing at all. The perfection of every moment may not be apparent to you, yet that will make the moment no less perfect. It will be no less a gift.
Thank you, Linda. Who would like to start the discussion?
I would, but I'm speechless.
That's a first.
I would ask about Robert Heinlein, is it Heinlein, and Grok in Fullness. I don't understand that.
I didn't understand that either.
Robert Heinlein wrote the book, I believe, Stranger in a Strange Land. I think that's what that's from. And it's the phrase that they use when they gain knowledge in that book. Do you fully grok?
Got ya. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Lindapedia.
No one's ever called me that, but that's really kind of perfect.
I was going to say Linda Wikipedia.
Oh, good one too. That's perfect name for you, Linda.
I would, I did not know that, but because he just referenced God, or Neil just referenced something, isn't it about the words and context? And it's a challenge. Thus, it is challenging for you to grok in fullness, as wonderful Robert Heinlein would put it. What I mean when I say help God. So I thought that might be leaning to that, but I'm glad you asked, Angela, because I didn't know.
The harmony party.
Chaos.
Yeah.
Because how many times do we all say things like, the world's just in a chaotic condition?
Complete chaos. Right?
Yeah.
Yep. True. And the Godding, so when he says Godding, the body of God, we are God, we're Godding.
Mm-hmm.
I like that too.
One of the best bits for me is the word kindness, how that's broken up. I think that's brilliant.
Yes.
Kindness and everything. That's just really brilliant.
Yeah, that is brilliant.
I love it when you find words that do that. For instance, atonement is at one-ment. And once I see it like that, broken up, whenever I see the word anywhere else, I don't see atonement. I see at one-ment. And the kindness, I'll never read kindness the same way.
For me, it's the pure love that is so powerful, because before this meeting started, I was with the owner of this farm sorting through the beehives, and we were looking for a queen in, she's got 3 giant hives, which are many stories high, 3 stories high, each of them. And to look at the chaos in each of the frames, and to be shown the drones and the larvae and all that, it was all explained to me, and I was blowing this smoke. You just have to squeeze this thing, whatever. But to understand the harmony and the love with which this lady is trying to do her best to help the bees and her crops. I couldn't believe it. So I said to her that the bees know you love them, and she's saying, she's at a loss because she doesn't see it as love. I mean, it's her duty, it's her responsibility, blah, blah, blah. But the fact is, it's all done for love. You can't explain it to someone who does it constantly and doesn't even know that it's love at the core of it.
That's pretty interesting because I could visualize everything you were saying. And that is, you know, kind of a chaotic thing. And it reminded me of one of the times that I went to South Africa. We were on a morning walk to see animals. And we weren't seeing much of anything. You could hear monkeys in the background. You could hear sounds of birds, but you couldn't really see anything. And this guy that I remember was quite charming looking. And they all carry rifles, but they're bent. And for the security of the people walking around there, they shoot them in the air. They don't shoot the animals. And all of a sudden, this guy says, in a brilliant South American accent, which I can't mimic, he says, now, for instance, look down here at our feet. That is a pile of elephant dung. And I was like, well, let me take a picture. And he said, do you notice anything on the dung? And they were dung beetles. And they were kind of all moving around frantically. And he says, you might think, ooh, that's gross, or, you know, what's the point of this? And he went into like a 10-minute talk about how if the dung beetle didn't do its job, the flies wouldn't do their job. It just, you know, it's like, it was all connected. And this guy wasn't a oneness guy. He was a animal safari guy. But that's what it made me think of, because when I see a fly buzzing around my head in my house, I'm thinking, I know you probably have a purpose, but it shouldn't be here. And whenever I see any, especially real little critters, you know, like ants, for instance, I think, well, there's a purpose here. And anyway, that's what that made me think about.
I listened to a 25-minute blah, blah, blah on our public radio about this historian just, you know, couldn't stop talking. And the interviewer just, you know, was on the same wavelength as her. And this was Oxford University, so couldn't go much higher. But this sentence here that we just read, I am sorry to see my opponent doing this to himself. That summarizes everything Donald Trump has said about our prime minister. Like, we're all quite upset about it, but that one sentence takes care of the whole shebang.
It's a very good point. I mean, I just keep my TV on mute. Over.
Well, that's why I've gotten off Facebook. It's just too much of the same. Like if it's pure love and harmony we're after, might as well turn all that off.
Did you close your account or
Yeah.
put it on pause?
Closed. No half measures.
Yeah, that sentence is a pretty powerful sentence. And right now, it's interesting. I'm in this class, and the teacher, I always thought the teacher was a highly evolved being. And for whatever reason, this teacher has, over the last few weeks, has gone out of integrity from what I've been observing, and unfortunately has unfortunately, it is what it is, and everything is divine in its moment. So, unfortunate things in the grand scheme of things, but it appears as an unfortunate thing because I said something. I've shown a lot at the beginning of this lack of integrity going in, and now over the last 3 weeks, he's spiraled downward into like an abyss. And like the last was one of his other students had suggested, maybe you give yourself compassion for the, unwanted feedback you're getting, and I'll give myself compassion for the teacher that I have that doesn't seem open. And he came back and basically slammed her and said, I am not open, receiving spiritual or emotional guidance from you. And I am so sorry to see him doing this to himself, because he's gotten triggered, and I'm the one that triggered him initially, but now over the past 3 weeks, lots of people have triggered him, and he's lashing out now. And it's like, he's built this beautiful community, and it's as if he's like pissing on us now. Like, even that. So I'm doing that himself, and at the same time, there's perfection in it. At the exact same time, everything that's happened is exactly perfect. It's been a very interesting. It is still an interesting thing to observe and be a part of. And I'm in a situation right now where I'm trying to decide: do I say anything more? Sure. I think what I might do is I might and see, in this class at this point, be open. I don't know.
Linda, I would say, because this comes up to me several times a week with the work I do. And there's certain people I know who cannot take the heat, and they won't take the constructive criticism. They believe in oneness, but I stop and I pause before I would make a suggestion, and I ask myself, is this going to change this person? Is it supposed to change this person? You know, I mean, if they're adding the numbers wrong in the books, you've got to say something. But
Right.
if their writing is a little bit off, whatever it is, I stop. If it's something I mentioned before, then I don't mention it again. You know, I'll just I'm the communications coordinator. I'll just correct it when I get it. So I think it's a question of, is it worth it? And I'm not an expert in this department. I'm just throwing my 2 cents. Over.
Yeah, you make a valid point. That's kind of that, I guess for me, if I do say anything, it's my highest heart. It can't be like, I can't say something if what I'm trying to do is blame or shame or, correct, because perfect in himself. He's just as we are each perfect in ourselves, because we're divinity in expression. It doesn't mean we're not capable of making mistakes or getting confused. So yeah, for me, the decision has to be, is it helpful, I guess, is the, I was trying to teach my grandchildren that acronym THINK, about what you say. Is it thoughtful? Is it helpful? Is it informative? Is it necessary? And is it kind? And if it isn't any of those things, maybe you just keep your mouth shut.
Yep. I agree with that.
So at the point, I guess I'm kind of stuck in the necessary, is determining, is it necessary? But if we're helping God through our actions, I just have to determine this moment, because I'm in the moment for a reason. I mean, I'm in the class for a reason. I wouldn't be in the class if there's a reason for it. So I'm having the experience along with all the other students. And so it's a fascinating situation to begin because of the dynamics of it. This highly evolved teacher that then, exhibits really not highly evolved behavior. Over.
I could add something. Do we have time, or do you want to move on?
We have time.
Yeah. Yeah.
What I'm hearing, what's coming through to me with this discussion is my deepest struggle with my own self in speaking from my heart. And I've got a very ingrained habit of speaking from my head. And for me, it's very useful when I know I'm in my heart and I stay there. And to me, that's what the struggle is. And for me, I have to find ways to keep, when we're in our heart, I believe I read or heard yesterday that one pure thought of love immediately goes to the entire universe and changes it.
Mm.
That's how powerful purity of love is. And I think that's what we're talking about, where a professor seems to be in love and then flips and you're going, what happened? I think it's our human journey. We as human beings come in and out of the purity of our heart, which someone here mentioned, that we all, I believe it was you, Nanette, that we all are pure. We all have that birthright of pure love, but we're here to realize it. We're here to embody it. And so in my experience, that's what I now understand, that it isn't what we say, it's how we say it, to me. I think that's what I hear people struggling with. I may not be hearing correctly. I certainly think that's what I struggle with. My best friend just had a stroke, and she has her speech, she has her walking, but she doesn't have her ability to be cognitive and to understand what she's doing. She can't use a telephone anymore. She can't use her email. And there's some serious things with her daughters that are not trustworthy, and finances and things like that. And just like all of you, I am facing some very difficult conversations with serious consequences. And I think that brings out the best in us when we have that challenge. Okay, that's it. Off. Oops. How do I get out of here?
That's beautiful, Joyce. Really, thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And I think you're right. I think it's more about how we say it. I think, kindness, that whole thing about, and I love how it's kindness. We're all kin. Thought that was a neat part of this chapter too. Over.
May I do the meditation real quick so I can cover what both Linda and Joyce have just said?
Yep, that's fine.
Okay. Thank you, God, for guarding so well. Every one of us shines like the moon, but we have the dark side, and only pure love and the intention of seeing everyone as kin is what will bless. The teacher of Linda's class and the friend who Joyce wants to protect, the intention to love and uplift and magnify the goodness of each other, to see and love the purity of soul is what we're focusing on now.
Thank you, Shimon.
I'm just so happy that Joyce said that all we need to send out is one pure thought of love. I could see that going out multiplied 8 times.
Well, and there's a real irony here of what Joyce was saying and what was going on in my office here when Joyce was speaking. My 9-year-old granddaughter, I've got a light on my door that says on the air, and this means this is not a phone call you can come in and interrupt. And it's been there for years. And she kept knocking on the door, We went through this last week, this very same time, of her wanting to go over to her friend's house. And I said, where's your mom? And so I get taken away, and then she wants to have a conversation. I said, I'm not being very kind, even in my gestures. You know, I was like, we went over this last week. So even while you were speaking in joy, I couldn't distance myself from it. So, bless me, Father, for I have sinned. But, interesting timing, I thought.
It was a test, I think, in that.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because it was not coincidental that happened.
No, I'm sure. I'm sure. Well,
why do you have to be so competitive? Now you're funnier than me.
We all have our days that we're shining. Some days we're not shining.
I think you're hilarious, Nanette. You invited that because you needed more of what we were praying for.
Yep. And
that's what it was.
Yep. Oh, the test. I'll say one more thing, and then we can close it for the day. But I remember when my brother, who's 2 years younger than I am, I was 15 and I was 17 and he was 15. And my mom had suspected us of smoking pot up in one of the bedrooms. And of course, that would never happen. And anyway, there was a big storm happening. And my mom she wasn't screaming, but she was not happy about this thing that she knew, and she was correct. And my brother said, cross my heart and hope to die. If I'm lying, let lightning strike me down. And a big boom of thunder happened. And my brother's knees buckled to the floor because he thought it over. But I did invite it, sort of like my brother invited in the thunder. You know, it was like,
amazing story. That's amazing.
I'll never forget it. And it was just one of those moments where my mother was laughing.
She was laughing?
Yep.
So she wasn't mad about the pot anymore?
No, she just thought it was hilarious that he obviously had done what she accused him of doing.
Yeah, right. It was an answer from God saying, yes, it's happening. See, it's happening.
That's right. Okay, everybody. I will see you next week. And Linda, if you have time, can you send me the recording? Because I don't know if I have it.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay, love everybody.
Same time, same station.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for coming.
Bye-bye. Love you all.
Bye.
Love you too.